What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Stars of the Diamond. My name is Rhett, and today we're going to be doing another vintage card set feature. And today I'm going to be featuring the set that we have before us, and it's one of my favorite sets, and it can be collected in a lot of different ways, and that's one of the reasons why I like it so much. It's the E121 American Caramel series of 80, and then a second set called the series of 120. So before I get too far into the details, basically it is a black and white caramel issue, and here's a Babe Ruth card from that set. I featured this in a video previously, but it's a black and white set and features, real photos as opposed to cartoon drawings of the players. And they all have the same design, the black and white image, the name in block print on the bottom with the position and the team, and no number or anything like that. Okay, and so this set was included in many different types of products, but the most common, the 800-pound gorilla of this issue is called the E121 American Caramel. And in order to be a E121 American Caramel card, it needs to actually have advertisement on the back for that company. These cards also came with other companies, and I can kind of feature those really quick. I don't want this video to be too long or too boring for people, so I'm going to try and keep it pretty brief. But basically, the set can be broken into 2 years. And I covered that a little bit in my Babe Ruth video, but I'm going to cover it a little bit more because there's more details to it than what I covered there. So basically in 1921, they made this set, and at least initially, they had initially planned on producing 80 cards with that set. And then the following year in 1922, they produced the same set with some slight changes, changed some photos out, some old outdated photos, and they made a new set, but this set was out of 120. And just really quickly, I'm going to kind of show us that. So here we have the regular back for the American Caramel Company E121 series of 80. And the way that you know that is right at the top here. It says, this set consists of pictures of 80, that's the important part, of the leading baseball stars. American Caramel Company, Lancaster, and York, Pennsylvania. So this makes that a 1921 card. In 1922, they made a very, very similar set. And again, you can tell from the front, very similar in so many ways. They really didn't change up the design or anything like that. But what they did is, instead of having it be out of 80 cards, they have now, this set consists of pictures of 120 of the leading. So if it says 120, 1922. If it says 80, 1921. Okay? You'd think that would be easy. It's not. It's more complex than that. So the series of 80 cards, which we have here, for a long time in the hobby, it was known that there was a second version of the back of these cards. And so both of these, actually all three of these cards are considered what we now call Type 1 E121 cards. And I'm just going to use this Harry Hooper card as sort of my go-to example of that. And then over here I have a card of a guy named Cecil Causey for the New York Giants. And he has what is considered a Type 2 back. And for a long time within the hobby, these two backs were known. So if we take a look at these, there's some differences that are very readily apparent. And so obviously over here it says, this set consists of pictures of 80 of the, next line, leading. This set consists of pictures of 80 of the leading. So, and then in addition to that, if you look at the bottom line here, in all block print, we have Lancaster and York, penna. Down over here, we have Lancaster and York in serif font in upper and lower case, and instead of having PENNA as the abbreviation, they've shortened it down to just PA. And so these are from the same set. These are still both E121 series of 80 cards. Now, what happened is that the cards were first produced just like we see over here. Later, at the end of the season, they made a new issue of this set, and they included this different back. And there's a lot of players for the New York Nationals and the New York Americans that are only found with the rare back. Reason being is that kind of funny, in 1921, the Yankees and the Giants played in the World Series. And so American Caramel obviously made a new printing of these cards to feature the Giants and the Yankees, in the World Series. So a lot of the rarest cards in this particular series you'll find from the New York Nationals and the New York Americans. For example, Cecil Causey here was not included in the earlier prints, so he will be a rare card every single time if he's a series of 80 cards. Again, you'd think, okay, well, that's pretty straightforward. It's not that easy. There's actually, through research that I did, probably 10 to 15 years ago, I introduced the hobby to a third type back. Now, it's very similar to the Type 1 back, but it includes the rarer players from the Type 2 back. And that's what I have here. So I'm going to kind of cover this really quick. So now, this is a Type 1 back up here and what I call a Type 3 back. And I coined that term about 10 to 15 years ago when I first kind of introduced these cards to the hobby. And as you can see, both of these cards say this set consists of a series of 80 of the leading. This one as well says 80 of the leading. The way to tell the difference between a Type 1 back and a Type 3 back is actually looking at that last line. If we look at Lancaster and York, Pennsylvania, that's an all block print on the Type 1. And on the Type 3, we are in serif style font. Okay, and so this will include some of the rare players. And so if you ever find one of those rare guys from the New York Giants or the New York Yankees, and they have what you think is a Type 1 back, if you look again, it'll be a Type 3 back. Okay, so here's Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3. So those are the three different type backs. So shortly after I introduced the world to sort of the Type 3 back, it was brought to my attention that there's actually a fourth type back. Now this fourth type back is a really, really unusual one. And it's not found on many cards. At this point right now, I kind of track all of these, and I think we've only confirmed it on about 10 different people. So it may actually just be a variation of the Type 1 back that was just made on a portion of a sheet or something along those lines, because I don't anticipate finding 80 different players, with this type back, because I'm starting to see multiples of the same card with that back. So I'm going to introduce kind of the world here to the Type 4 back. There's a few people that are in the know on this back, but not many. And again, upon first glance, these look very, very similar to each other. Now, the bottom line, again, is an all-block print. And again, the top line is this set consists of pictures of 80 of the, next line, leading. But if you look at that first line, the Type 4 back, look how short that is. Those words are much, much smaller than the Type 1s. And you can see it's about half the size. The other lines are all about the same. So it's just that first line is very, very narrow and condensed. And so that makes this card here is a Hall of Famer Ray Schalk. Again, this is a Type 4 back. And only about 10 different cards have been found with this back. So that means there are 4 different E121 series of 80 backs. I know that's pretty complex. And again, if at the end of the 1921 season, most likely the way that these came about, as far as chronology goes, we have sort of our Type 1, which I think is probably the first one made. And I think the Type 4 is probably just, like I stated, a variation on a sheet of the Type 1s. Second came the Type 2 back. And then third came the Type 3 back. which was largely a reprint of the Type 2 back. And we know this because if you look at the style on this back, instead of having that block print on the bottom, we have that serif font. Now, if we compare this to the series of 120, we have that same serif font on the bottom. And that was one of the differences between the 80 and the 120. So this is kind of a last print of 80. They had already started setting up their printers for this style, and all they did was change out the 80 for 120, and here we have the E122, or the E120 series of 120 backs. Now, if that's not complicated enough, there's another set of cards that should usually be, that in my opinion is really just another reprint of the E121 series of 80. And it's a set that not many people talk about in the hobby, even though it's in the original American card catalog and everything like that. And that is the E122 set. Now, the E122 set looks obviously very different from the E121 set. Okay, here's the same player. And obviously we've got that little box down at the bottom. So at some point during the production of the E121 series of 80 set, they made this. I don't know if it was a different printer that they used for a short period of time, but it's interesting because while these cards say series of 80 on the back, there are exactly 80 cards known with this style. So it looks like a shortly printed, meaning for a short time, they printed this set of cards. And as you can tell, what happened is they literally just took the E121 cards, put a screen around them, and remade them. Okay? And almost like they produced old Judge cards back in the day just using photographs, it looks like these are just a reprint by the American Caramel Company of their own cards, maybe to fill a particular order that they didn't have enough cards made and they needed to go to a second printer, whatever the reason is. But you can tell the difference, obviously, from the overall style, but the quality and the clarity of the picture here is very nice. The quality and the clarity of this, it has almost like a screen look to them. And oftentimes people will find these E122 cards and think that they're actually looking at reprints. They're not. These are 100% original, and they're actually quite difficult to find. And the backs are a little bit different, and you can kind of see here, it still says set consists of pictures of 80 of the leading, baseball stars, yada yada, a little bit of a different type set, you know, overall. And anyways, I don't think any talk about the differences between the E121 series of 80 and the 120 would be complete without at least bringing up the E122 cards. And I know that's a lot of numbers being thrown at you, a lot of types being thrown at you, but you do get used to it after a little while. Now, there's been a card that was a mystery card for me for quite a while. And I'm going to show that card right now, and it's not something that I've really shown to the hobby much. But this card right here, and this is the only card like this, of this style, that you will ever find. I haven't seen another card, you know, in this exact same style. So on the front surface, you know, on its surface, the front appears more like what we're seeing with the E121 cards. And you can kind of see, you know, block name on the top. This one now has a position, but it has both up, you know, they're all uppercase, but there's larger and then smaller letters. So, you know, it doesn't really go with what we're seeing here. And then if we look at the clarity on that picture, we've got that screen look to it again. And so what this card is, and if I flip it back over, you'll see that this card has the same back as what we saw on the E122 card. Sorry, there's a lot of glare. And if you flip that over, again, same back. So this card is sort of enigma. What it is, actually, it is the Ferd Shoop card from the E122 set, but it is the only card that does not have the name in the little gray box at the base. So what I proposed happened is that when they placed the little screen over the top of the E121 card to make a card just like this, they, for whatever reason, had remade the name for Furred Shoop and put it on the actual screen itself. So this card has baffled collectors for quite a while as to what exactly the set is. And you can see even SGC here totally messed it up. They're calling this an E121. And in reality, this is an E122 card of Shoop. He's on the checklist for E122. I've never seen a card of him that looks like our Eddie Foster card over here. So if you find this card, it's actually just an E122 card. It just doesn't look like any of the other cards from that set. So anyways, that is sort of the differences between these cards. It's a really cool set. And again, as if that wasn't complex enough, okay? These same cards, you know, as you can kind of see here, these all look like E121 cards. Ooh, that one's upside down. But in reality, if we flip these over, these are from all different candy and bread and or other companies. So Whitmore Candy, this one is from the Henry Johnson Confectionery of Alameda, California. We've got the Herpelsheimer's Boys Fashion Shop, which every card in this set here are one-of-a-kind cards. Okay, there's only been one example of almost every card in this set known. We've got Wholesome Bread, Clark's Bread, and Hafner's Big Tato Loaf. And I have an album of I call them the E121 family of sets. And that's just how I refer to them, because it really is, in a lot of ways, if you think about these cards as being like stock cards, you know, similar to like M101-4 or 5 or T206 cards even for that reason. Many different companies could use these. You just sent the company, which was the Felix Mendelssohn Company, your order and told them, hey, print this back on the back, and they would make these cards with your back if you printed enough of them. And so I've been collecting these for years, and this is my album, and I mainly just kind of want to show you. So most of these in the beginning are E121 regular American caramels, but you can kind of see here's another Herpelsheimer card. Here's more Clark's Bread cards. These ones are Gassler's, which is another bread company. These cards here have blank backs, but these are actually Coaster's Bread cards, which was also an issue made for the 1921 World Series, where it was all New York World Series. Then we've got some Wholesome Bread. We have a San Francisco Candy and Biscuit Company. This is the Standard Biscuit Company there. We've got Whitmore Candy. I've got quite a few more Whitmore Candy Company cards, and there's actually a couple different types of those. I might make a video someday just on those. Then over here we've got Lou Gertenrich, which he was a major league player around the turn of the century and that later became a candy maker. We've got another Hafner's Big Tato Loaf there. We've got more of those Henry Johnson backs. And here we've got a really rare one that's called the Service Candy Company, which was hand-stamped, and I believe that one's from Oakland, California. This is another hand-stamped one from a California confectioner. James P. Keating Candy Company, manufacturers and jobbers, wholesale only. And if this was stamped a little bit better, it would continue saying Sacramento, California. So that's a Sacramento-based set. But then if some people did not want their advertisement on the back, because I'm sure there was a surcharge for that, they could have these cards produced with no manufacturers on it. And those are what are considered W575-1s. And they were printed pretty much throughout the entire printing of that. So these are really blank-backed E121 cards. And PSA mistakenly always refers to them as hand-cut. And there are some that are hand-cut, but the vast majority of these, if they have good picture quality on the front, are simply blank-backed E121 cards. And then we've got some later, these are W501 cards. They have the enigmatic G422, which we assume means April 22nd of 1922 or April of 1922 on the top with a number of the cards, and there's exactly 120 cards. And here are some of those E122 cards. And here's kind of a nice one of Rogers Hornsby. And again, you can kind of see that screen-like quality of these cards. And sometimes people will mistaken these as reprints, but they are real. But anyways, so I kind of wanted, it's been a set that, you know, in a lot of ways I've dedicated quite a bit of time and effort to. And people come to me all the time with questions about this set. So I wanted to just kind of clarify really quick some of the ins and outs of the set. It's probably a video that if you collect these cards, you might have to watch a few times to kind of get all the information that I just kind of threw out there at you. But feel free to do so. And if you have any questions about this set, if you have any of these cards, want any questions answered, or you want an appraisal or anything like that, just let me know in the comments below. I do read my comments and I do respond to the comments. And I appreciate everybody coming to my page. We've really kind of been picking up as far as kind of the number of subscribers and the view count, so keep it up. I really do appreciate it. If you like my videos, consider subscribing and liking the videos, and also be sure to hit that notification bell. That gives you a heads up when I upload new videos. And I'm gonna try, especially over the holiday weekend or week here with Thanksgiving coming up, I'm gonna try and do a couple videos a week, just so that we can kind of keep things going. But anyways, awesome. Thanks for coming into Stars of the Diamond, and come back often. Happy collecting, everybody.